Well, thank you everybody for being a part of our social media webinar right now. Our webinar is called Creating Engaging Messages on Social Media, and we will have myself, Clinton Monchuk, as well as Adrienne Ivey join us here in a little bit, talking about different ways to create engaging messages. First of all, I just wanted to say Farm and Food Care is engaged in trying to have those conversations with consumers. We strive to look at new and innovative ways to introduce producers to their consumers and give them a better understanding of how their food is produced and provide the true facts on agriculture. And this is one of those ways through this webinar that we're trying to put the tools in front of the agriculture industry to make sure that they're better equipped and you are better equipped to make sure that you can convey your messaging in social media. So a little bit about who we are. My name is Clinton Monchuk. As mentioned, I'm the Executive Director of Farm and Food Care Saskatchewan, but I'm also a farmer out in the Lanigan area where I grew up as well. We farm about 4,000 acres in total and also put up a layer operation here this year, and we also ranch cattle down in Oklahoma. And with that, I will leave it over or take it over to Adrienne for her to take over the webinar. Thank you.
Thank you, Clinton, for that introduction. As Clinton said, I'm Adrienne Ivey, a farmer and rancher from Ituna, Saskatchewan. I ranch there with my husband and our 2 kids. And I also spend a lot of time on social media talking about agriculture and what we do on our farm and why we do it. I do that from Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, and also my blog, which you can find at viewfromtheranchporch.com. So right when we get started here, I just wanted to throw this out there. It's not, spending time talking about agriculture on social media, it's not about likes or retweets. It's more about creating the engagement that will allow people to make real decisions with regards to their food choices. It's more about influencing their actions and thoughts and really having a great understanding of where their food comes from and why farmers are doing the things that we do on a daily basis. I definitely can't stress the importance of this slide enough. The goal is to talk with people, not at them. It's one of our biggest challenges as agriculture to really be able to connect and engage with people and have meaningful conversations that go both ways, back and forth, and not just us standing on our soapboxes telling people how it should be, but just having really meaningful conversations. So before you even begin, before you hit post or send or tweet, whatever it is, I think one of the most important things is to identify your target audience. Who is it that you are speaking to directly with that post? I think that there's definitely, well, it's so important that we are talking to each other within agriculture and learning from each other. It's also super important that we are figuring out who the consumers are that we're talking to, and how best to engage with them and talk directly to them. Are they the right target audience? Am I speaking to people who I can really connect with on a basic level? Who is your tribe of people outside of agriculture? So if you remove yourself from the idea of being a farmer and being in that world, the part of your life that's outside of agriculture, who are your people? For me, it's mummy groups. It's the people that are driving their kids to hockey and soccer and making the grocery purchasing decisions and that are searching recipes online and putting the food, literally setting the food onto the table. Those are the people that are my tribe that I can connect with most easily. For you, it may be the millennials, or it may be the grandparent group, or it may be the hardcore fitness group. But who are your people outside of agriculture? Because those are who you are going to connect with the easiest. You always want to know what your objective is when you are sharing pieces of your farm story with the public. What's your goal in the story that you're trying to tell? A great example of that is the beaver video that I had, the beaver leading a herd of heifers across the pasture. And it went viral, circled the world, and was a really, really cool opportunity for me to bring it back to my very clear objective that I went into it with. That was to talk about how Canadian cattle share the land with wildlife, and the animal welfare and environmental implications of that, and how it's not abnormal for us to see wildlife with the cattle, that it's really just a really cool daily part of our lives. And that was my objective going into that. When that video took off, I knew that there was going to be opportunities to have that really important conversation. So every media, be it radio or TV, whatever interview that I did, I made sure to bring it back to that key point. I didn't wait to be asked that question. I made sure that it got brought back to that key point of cattle sharing the land with wildlife. So whatever it is, whatever picture or statement or video it is that you're sharing, what is your objective in that? What do you really want people to get from it? So every message that we have may lean itself more towards a different social media channel or another, whether it's Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat. It's really important that for me that I try to tailor each message to the appropriate channel. Obviously pictures lend themselves very well to Instagram, but not just any picture. Pictures that are really well done, edited, and create their own story within the picture. I find that's what goes really well on Instagram, whereas Snapchat is all about the raw instant moment, and it's just a flash of time, and it's not about being pretty or edited. It's just about a really spontaneous raw moment of time. And when you're selecting those channels, there's definitely etiquette to each channel as well. The one thing that I cannot stress enough across any social media is to make sure that you're providing credit where credit is due, whether it's for words or pictures, sentiments, anything like that. Make sure that you're crediting the person that came up with that. A great example of that is Cam Hoole's Daily Dairy Diary is his Twitter handle, but he had a really cool tweet that went crazy that said, "Farming is the art of losing money while working 400 hours a month feeding people that think you're trying to kill them." And it really resonated with both farmers and consumers alike, but it was also very sad in the way that it was ripped off, and other people were not only using it as their own words, but also making money off of it. So it's just really important that you bring it back and say, it's great to share and amplify a message, but just make sure you're tagging the person who came up with it or took the picture or video or whatever it is. It's just really common courtesy that sometimes gets neglected on social media. So if you see a cool picture with a funny tagline or whatever it is, don't just click and save the picture and share it as your own. Just make sure you tag the person who took it. And then there's definitely how much time and effort are you willing to spend on social media. We all know that social media can be an incredible time suck. It can begin to take over our lives, and we've all had that moment when I'm watching a kids hockey game or whatever and replying to tweets at the same time. And we have to definitely make sure that we keep it in the back of our minds that we know that it is okay to set it down and to maybe set aside a specific time during your day where you're going to reply or tweet out or spend time on it, but don't let it overtake our lives. There's definitely also times when when social media can start to feel very negative. That I know there are times when it starts to affect me a little and pull me down, whether it's negativity from activists or even sometimes negativity from other farmers. And it's important to know that this doesn't have to be onerous for us. It doesn't have to feel like work. If it's feeling like too much, take a break from it. It's okay to take a week or so Twitter break. Just because you're taking a break doesn't mean you need to delete your account or walk away from it forever. But it's okay to just either not tweet yourself and just read, or just take a break altogether for a little while. And that way you come back refreshed and with a new perspective and with a positive outlook. So I feel like that can be very important, to take that break when it's needed. And absolutely, words matter. Words are so important, especially on channels like Instagram, well, Twitter, Facebook, and even Instagram. So you want to make sure that you're using a great tone, a positive tone. It's so hard to read tone online, and I can guarantee you that if there's a way for it to be read negatively, that there will be people that take it that way. So it's really important to have a read over what you're posting before you hit send, to really think about, well, how could this sound? Could this come off as really snarky or grouchy or negative, even though I was just trying to be funny and sarcastic at the moment? But how might this sound to other people that aren't hearing the way that I'm saying it in my head? Another really important thing is lingo. There are words that we use in agriculture that are not generally understood across all platforms or across the general public. Words like slough. I use the word slough very often because our ranch is dotted with sloughs and wetlands, but for an urbanite, they may have no idea what a slough is, or even other farmers from across Canada might not know what a slough is. That could be a very geographical word. Or the idea of cash crops. The word cash crop means something very different in Ontario than it does in BC. So it's something to keep in mind. Grammar is also so important. I'll talk a little bit more about that later on, but you can never undo the damage done by poor spelling in grammar. It can take a very well done tweet and make it look absolutely unintelligent. And the other thing to think about are abbreviations. When we, as farmers, might use the abbreviation AI, I'm going to go AI that cow that's in heat. And what consumers might hear is artificial intelligence. So, and also we are an industry that loves abbreviations. Farm and Food Care is FF&C, or the Saskatchewan Cattlemen's Association is SCA, or like every group we have has a different acronym and abbreviation, and it's really important that we don't clutter up our tweets with too much of that, because it can be hard to understand for somebody not in our own circle. And I've even found that myself when learning from other farmers' posts, is that I've often had to ask them, well, what does that mean? What's that? And it makes sense in their head because it's the lingo that they use every day. But for people not in our own circle, it can be really tough to figure out what they're talking about. So this post from Farmer Tim is a great example of how simple words can really connect with people. It's written with plain language that anyone can understand and can connect with. It also, beyond the words, shows a clean, well-cared-for animals in a clean barn. It's a positive situation that consumers can relate to. So write informally, but not carelessly. There's something to be said about trying to make sure your words are so carefully chosen that you lose your own personality. And that's the thing about farmers sharing their own stories, is that it's so important that you still remain you and that you let your personality shine. But at the same time, no matter how great of a sentiment it is that you're sharing, it can get lost very quickly when there's grammar or misspelled words or things like that that just absolutely take away from the great sentiment that you originally started with. So words matter. I look at this post of mine that I had a lot of really great feedback from and a lot of great engagement, actually. But it goes beyond just the picture of my big, tough rancher with caring for a little tiny animal. If I would have used different words, I remember at the time we were struggling with some sick animals. And if I would have used words like, oh, I hope this one lives, or something negative like that, it would have had an entirely different response than the great responses that I had. Your personal brand. This is something that I talk about all the time with young people that are just going out into the world, and I think that it's something that all of us need to be aware of, that for every post you do, every tweet, you are either building your personal brand in a positive way or you're reducing it in a negative way. And everything from using consistent photo editing, even if it means that that's consistently not editing photos, or using the same name and look across all of your social media. These things can be really important. A great example of this is my friend Leslie Kelly of High Heels and Canola Fields. There's some examples here of her awesome photography and the way she edits her pictures, as well as the way that she uses High Heels and Canola Fields across all of her social media brands or social media platforms, whether it's Twitter, Facebook, Pinterest, Instagram. Leslie and I have talked before about the importance, though, of still maintaining and connecting your brand or your blog or social media name, in her case, High Heels and Canola Fields, with your actual name, Leslie Kelly. Or for me, it's View from the Ranch Porch, and connecting that with Adrienne and Ivey. People still want to know that you're a real person, and they want to know that you're a mom or a dad or whoever you are, and that your everyday life is as much part of what you do in your ranching as anything. So here's an example of how she has carried such similar looks and messages across all of her platforms. So getting involved and staying involved, sometimes, as much as anything, it's important that you're willing to stick around and have the hard conversations. Because once you've struck a chord with some people, once you've generated some questions, it's so important that we can still be there to follow up and to answer the questions and to continue on the conversation, and understanding where the people and their questions are coming from, and being able to explain in our experiences why we do what we do on the farm. So make sure you're not arguing unnecessarily, but if people are engaged, make sure you're willing to continue the conversation. Always take a moment to correct the misinformation that you see online, because we all know that there's so much of it. And it doesn't need to be a broad, you don't need to bring every scientific study ever done into it. Really, it's just taking a moment to say, well, actually on our farm, specifically on my own farm, this is what we do and why we do it. And whether that's why I'm growing GMOs, why I'm using hormone implants on our yearlings, or when specifically we're giving our animals antibiotics, those kind of things are so important. And when a social media disaster happens, and they do happen, they happen to everyone, and that's okay, but when they happen, address it. So I'm not going to go deeply into this, but take a moment and Google the story of how an intern with the American Red Cross tweeted from the wrong account, tweeted from the Red Cross account instead of his personal account, and the way that American Red Cross actually took this incident and turned it into actually a really positive success story. So be transparent and honest. And many people have different opinions on this, on what level of transparency consumers are ready for. Personally, I call it selective transparency. I will lie about nothing, but I also don't post everything. You know, things like perhaps an animal that died. I'm not going to post that every day. But if I have time to really talk about what happened, the circumstances around it, if it's a learning opportunity, then absolutely I will. But if you're going to post something like that, you really have to be ready to have an honest and engaging conversation about what happened. Because there will always be somebody there looking to twist the truth or poke holes in your story. If there are holes in your story, someone will find it for sure. Always think before you post. I don't know when Twitter will find an edit function. I'm very impatiently awaiting that day, but right now all you can do is delete a post once it's been out there, and you never know how many people have screenshotted it before you were able to get it deleted. So it's just a matter of taking a moment, reading what you are posting before you actually click send, and thinking hard about what you're doing it. So always ask yourself, would I say this on live television? And I mean, this is all to be taken with a grain of salt as well, because with all this, you want to be aware, you want to be sure that you're aware of what you're posting and have thought it through, but at the same time, you do want a level of spontaneity. You want to be making sure that you're keeping your personality, and sometimes if you overthink it too much, a little of that can be lost. So it's a happy medium between the two. So some very famous examples: Mr. President Trump's spelling error that I think it's still out there to this day. I'm not sure if he's actually deleted it yet or not. Being very aware of current events and hashtags that you are using. For example, the Aurora shooting was not at all a good time to be using the hashtag Aurora when you're trying to sell a dress. Sometimes we have little brain blank moments. The one tweet here at the bottom that talks about organic ketchup and turkey burgers, and I guess she's going vegetarian, except that turkey burgers aren't exactly vegetarian. And so responding to the negative when the negative happens, I mean, to be honest, we spend a lot of time focusing on this and how to deal with it and preparing ourselves. But I find that the level of negativity online is lower than it's ever been. I don't know if that's just because I've done a better job of ignoring the trolls and ignoring the people who aren't engaging for the right reasons, but I find that I'm getting more and more honest questions and less irrational negative feedback. But there are definitely still trolls out there, and depending on where you are in your stages of social media life, you know, trolls are people who are deliberately attacking you online. They may rant, they may spew hate speech, or even threaten you or your family. I've had that before. But some of them don't even believe what they're writing. A lot of them are solely looking for that response from you and that anger and that engagement. And so when you ignore them, they often go away, and because you're not giving them the attention or the followers that they're looking for. So when you're dealing with people online who aren't trying to understand your point of view, in my world, it's the vegans who are so against what I do, and there's no open conversation possible to be had with them. It's important that you keep your cool, that you don't debate them, because they can go on for hours and hours and hours. And so, some of their accounts, to be honest, have more than one person on them, and they would go for a week straight without stopping, to be honest. There's just no point in engaging with that. But for the people who aren't trolls, who are just concerned, and maybe their current concerns are valid and maybe they aren't, but if they're actually wanting to have a conversation, it's so important that I stick to what I know, stick to what happens on my farm, what I'm doing and why I'm doing it, specific examples, and connecting on values. I have lots of times really come into conversations where it's another mom, and we can really connect on, really all we want is to make sure that our children are as safe and healthy as possible, and that we leave the world in a better place for them. And they understand that that's important to me as well. And in the end, agree to disagree. That's perfectly okay. I have many vegetarian friends who are absolutely never going to eat meat, and that's okay. That's their choice, and it's not up to me to try to change that choice any more than when it comes to religion or politics or anything like that. A personal choice is just that, and they have every right to make whatever choices they want. So I guess that is a little more of the difficult people side rather than trolls, and just really keeping the conversation open and leading from a place of yourself being open. When you make sure that you are as open as you want the other person to be, it can really change the conversation in a hurry. When we come from a place of defensiveness, and I'm as bad as anyone, that is my immediate place that I go to quite often. But it's really important that I'm open to other people's views as much as their own, and keeping it positive. There are many types of farming that I know do not work well for our farm, but it's not up to me to tell other farmers what's best for their farm. I know what's right for ours, but I don't know what's right for anybody else down the road. So it's important that we're open to all types of agriculture, and just keep it professional, respectful, and positive. So I think that is the main things that I wanted to talk about this afternoon. From here, I am going to turn it back over to Clint. I'm looking Clinton, and I'm looking very forward to hearing what he has to talk about with social video. That is, I always say, a picture is worth 1,000 words, and a video is worth 1,000 pictures. So I think we all have a lot to learn. It'll be really great.
Excellent.
Yeah, no problem. I'll also be around to answer any questions after the fact, if any of you think on any as you're listening.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Adrienne, for going through that. I really appreciate it. And it gives a good overview into some of the kind of areas as well that we'll highlight here on the social video side of things. But all those same kind of ideas and some of the difficulties around social media are obviously evident on the social media side or on the video side as well. When it comes specific to the videos, I think you're seeing more and more people, organizations, industries getting into showing the, like Adrienne said, thousands of pictures and the explanation around the industry or their specific things that they're selling. You see fitness, you see dietitians, obviously in the agriculture industry, more videos getting out as well. And what we want to make sure is we're setting up this unique opportunity to optimize what you can do with the videos. Excellent. So just a few things to keep in mind as well when we're looking at videos. Know the limitations of the actual smartphone or iPad or whatever you're using as well. When it comes to the resolution, sound editing, make sure you understand, first of all, what your phone can do or whatever you're using. But second of all, when you convert that back into, say, a Twitter video or a Facebook or YouTube, what that actually looks like before you do it. When I first started doing some videos, I made a series of planting 101, swathing 101, combining 101 to just allow me to educate consumers and students a little bit more about what I'm doing on a grain farm. And I didn't realize that when you have it in the portrait mode, when you actually put it on a computer, it's a tall, skinny video. So it's not as beneficial to watch as a portrait, or sorry, as a landscape video. So make sure you have your phone switched around to the direction you want. Be aware of your surroundings. Make sure safety is first. I've had neighbors that have been taking videos or even doing different things on social media and then have to give us a call saying they're stuck in the middle of a slough. So make sure if you're going to take a video or take the time to do some of the social media when you're actually in a piece of equipment, you take a look around, make sure you're not driving into a slough, driving into a row of trees or a fence line. And as well, you know, sometimes we can get a little bit complacent about the fact that the people around you as well. When I fill up with seed and fertilizer when I'm planting in the springtime, I make sure that all the people around me are gone. There's nobody that's trying to get up close to the tractor when I'm going to my rows, so I'm aware of what's around me as well. When it comes to the editing, a lot of the different programs you use have editing software where you can take pieces out. Again, remember, that's a limitation to your own phone as well, so just be aware of that. In terms of when you're actually speaking in the video, make sure you're cognizant of the fact that once this goes out online, so if it's on any one of the numerous things like YouTube or Facebook or Twitter, anybody can watch it, okay? So make sure that you're portraying the message you want to and avoid some slang terms that Adrienne had mentioned, or explain them like AI or GPS or things like that to make sure that your audience understands what you're talking about. And shorter is better. I was always under the viewpoint that when you made a report, to make a one-page report to have an executive look at. When it comes to videos, if you can do it in a minute clip, it seems like that's it's a better amount of time to get the message across and actually have people interested in it and a higher possibility of sharing as well. So design it to be shareable. You got to understand and have it in the back of your hand or back of your head, why would people actually want to share this video? So you have to make it appealing to the public as well. A lot of the things that we talk about in farming are really interesting to us farmers and ranchers, but we have to realize that if you want it to go to consumers, you have to make it interesting from their point of view as well. And you have to make it something that they're willing to pass on to their friends and let them inspire. So I think this comes a little bit more into trying to be a storyteller. So every good story has a beginning, middle, and end, and there's always some reason to talk about a story. And I'll use the example, I made a video on direct seeding when there was a windstorm happening just this last May. And you could see in the background that there was some dust clouds, although they weren't like they would be back in the 30s. And it made me prompt myself to take a video and explain, you know, if this wasn't back in the 30s when we were conventionally tilling our land, this would be black. So to talk about, you know, here's the current example of this windstorm. This is why I'm direct seeding, so I guess I'm the hero. Outline what what I'm doing and why I'm doing it, and have that background setting. You know, having that video to show not only my seeder going directly into the ground and not having a lot of dust come out behind it, but also have the fact that there's dust in the atmosphere around us, and talking about how, you know, we should be proud of the fact that we have this new technology. And that resonated with a lot of people. When I shared it on Facebook and Twitter, it really resonated with a lot of people that have experienced those dust storms or had been told about those dust storms back in the 30s, so it really resonated with them. As well, check out Sask Dairy on YouTube. They have some great storytelling videos as well. When it comes to what we've done a lot of surveying from coast to coast on what actually leads to engagement. So when I've said that we want to make sure that regular consumers actually pick up on some of the social media, we found that when you appeal to their heart, so this is the value system, you appeal to their heart, they're more inclined to share that because there's emotional content to it. And I'll give you an example of that here with my beautiful little 4-year-old daughter. We took a video of her trying to explain seeding, what planting was, and then I posted a pic of her explaining that she wanted to be a girl seeder farmer. And that actually tugged at the heartstrings of consumers. And my impression rating from this was far beyond any of my other seeding 101 or swathing or combining, because it was relatable, because everybody can say, you know, I've seen little girls, or the way she talks, the way she expresses herself, the way she was nonchalant about chewing her gum in the tractor in the buddy seat, and stuff like that. That again resonates, but you're still getting out that, you know, there's the picture in the background of us seeding, and you know, one of the questions I asked her is, what are we seeding? And she was, well, I can't remember. And then I said, well, what does Daddy like to drink? And she said, beer. So then you start talking a little bit about barley, and you get into a conversation again on that, which again appeals a little bit more on the emotion side. We're seeing this, some of the politicians are doing this. I just actually saw Ag More Than Ever posted a live feed from Farm Progress Show, and it really is a good way to have an authentic, you know, non-edited video go out to the public to show you what you're doing. I do want to caution, though, that because it is live and it's recorded and you can see it later on, you can't edit, you know, things that you don't want people to see. So just make sure that's in the back of your mind, that you're trying to have this conversation, be open and transparent, like Adrienne had mentioned, but there is no editing of it. So if you have that worker or other family member who maybe likes to talk like a sailor, maybe avoid them in the live real-time video for that, and focus on the messaging that you want to get across. So one of the challenges that we're putting out to everybody right now as well is to share your pictures and videos. We started this back in Ag Month last year with using the hashtag #OurFoodHasAStory. And I think it's an excellent opportunity for all of us in the agriculture industry, and not only the agriculture industry, but consumers in general, to just put a little bit of a higher degree of social media presence around agriculture and food, and talk about, like Adrienne is saying here, she's a rancher, but she's a mom as well. And again, that tugs at the heartstrings and the values of consumers, because everybody can relate to that aspect, and the fact that Adrienne wants to make sure her kids are safe, healthy, and they eat nutritious beef. So we're challenging you on this as well to use this hashtag, share it with your specific commodities or industry, to make sure that we get more social media hits around this as well, and adds our publicity about the story as well. So in terms of just some of the other how-tos, this is an example of Snapchat, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, of how to use these features on your phone or your tablet. So if you are interested in these, this gives a little bit of extra background as well, to make sure that you have a professionally made video. and it will be made available on the website as well. Before I finish, I just want to say too, for those who may have started a little bit later on, this complete presentation along with the video will be available on our YouTube channel and our website after this is done. And with that, I will open it up for any questions that anybody may have. And feel free in the question box to just ask your question, and we will see it, both Adrienne and myself, and from there we can answer any questions that y'all might have. Okay. Oh, here we got one. As an implement dealer, what would you say our customers would respond best to? Great success with safety and community involvement. Maybe I can start with this, and so do you want me to repeat the question again? Okay, so the questions were coming from Cassidy. As an implement dealer, what would you say to our customers would be best to respond to? We have great success with safety and community involvement, and I would agree with that. The ability to have dealerships, obviously very heavily involved in the agriculture side of things, to make sure the safety is first, and a great example of that is making sure when you take pictures of combines, for example, you have fire extinguishers on the front and back, and I know from example I've had to use them before as well. So to make sure things like that are front and center. The ability to have, when the dealership is actually speaking to their audience, maybe in a video, to show some of those safety features that would exist nowadays on combines or tractors that may have not in the past, that would also be an excellent idea. We want to get information on sales specials, and we have and what we actually sell to our dealers, but we do not want to saturate our social feeds with that information, but want it to trickle in. Great point about speaking to the audience. Yeah, one of the things, and I know Farm and Food Care uses this, I know my wife uses it as well for her Mummy blog, but to use Hootsuite. Hootsuite is actually a scheduled social media where you can actually program it in to have, say, a tweet a day for the next however many days, and different aspects like that. So you're not having a flood of information go out there, but then have the ability to have pointed tweets or messaging go out as you want them. Adrienne, do you have any other suggestions or answers to those questions either?
No, I've actually been, I have another question here that I'd like to address, actually. Okay. It says, what is the policy, or what should be the policy for taking down content after you post it, if it has a negative response? So this is something that can be a little bit different for everyone. If you are a company, corporation, whatever, or a farmer, I feel like it's something that everybody should have a little bit of a plan for before these things happen. But I think it really needs to come from a situation by situation. In my opinion, I feel like a negative response isn't a reason to delete a post. I think that it's important to address it. But if it's offensive, or if it's completely taken off in a negative way, I mean, of course you can always delete a post for sure, but what's more important is that you address it, that you talk to the people who are offended by it, and try to understand why they're offended by it, and then take steps to rectify that. Apologies are very important. We're all human, even if you're tweeting from a massive corporate account or from your own small personal account. We're only human, and it's real people behind the computers that are generating these things, and it's important that we understand each other, and that sometimes we tweet in haste or whatever it is. So I'm not. Can we still hear me?
Yeah, you went blank for a little bit. Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay. It's important that we address the negative, that we don't just delete it, but that's really just a personal opinion on a specific case-by-case basis, I guess.
We also got a question from Courtney Tuck asking about some of the misinformation that we see, that we may see on social media, and Adrienne, your comment was to try and give it in a personal light and to respond, and what she's saying, if you have no personal tie to your answer. I would always say, Courtney, that there's always a way to kind of bring that back to your own personal life. And for example, if you have, and I responded to a comment on Facebook talking about, I think it was Roundup is going to give my kids cancer. What happened? Whatever that is, the fake study around that. So you can back it up with some of the research that you may have found from reputable sources or actual peer-reviewed papers. But at the end, when you're finished that, saying that, if this is what my customers or myself I use on our farm, and I would have no problem feeding that to myself, my family. Now that might not always, you might not always use that product or whatever, but you can always indicate the safety aspects that would resonate with the public. And I think that answers that question, but if not, just let me know and I can go through that again. Adrienne, do you have any insight as well for misinformation?
Yeah, I would say that everybody has an experience, whether it's something, a specific product that you've used or technique or not, whether it's even just as simple as saying, if CFIA says that this is safe, I have respect for that because of this, or I feel comfortable because I live in the town with these farmers. I understand that I understand that they have reasons behind what they're doing, and that they're good people, and I trust them. Or whatever it is, it may not be that you are the one growing a GMO crop. For many years, we did not grow GMO crops on our farm, as a perfect example. But that didn't stop me from commenting about what my past experiences had been with them, and why I thought they were an important part of modern agriculture. I think that it doesn't have to be well, at this very moment, I'm doing this. It can be in a broader sense of, this has been my experience.
One of the other questions that we got from Michael Kutzman with the chicken farmers is, what would be a good hashtags to use on social media that are more likely to reach consumers? And we have an answer on the side, but just to talk a little bit more about this, when we talk in agriculture lingo, oh, sorry, I guess you can't see that. When you talk in agriculture lingo, it's really only the industry that understands that. So for example, when I talk about malt barley does not resonate with people. Beer resonates with people. In the same token, when you're talking about say beef, instead of talking about beef or cattle, you're using steaks or hamburger, getting back to the products that consumers actually use. And that's what we're finding is more of a positive impact with consumers, because it's easier to relate to that.
I also anecdotally find that hashtag use is very different across social media channels. Even on Twitter, I mean, hashtags are super popular to use on Twitter, but unless it's a current event, there are not a lot of people that search out hashtags on Twitter. Whereas on Instagram, I find that there are far more people that have no connection to me or agriculture that are actively searching out hashtags and looking to look at pictures that relate to specific hashtags. And so I find that for me, it's a lot easier to engage with people outside of my circle on Instagram by using really well done hashtags. And those hashtags usually have things to do with food or everyday life, whether it's right now, Canada 150 is very important. I did an Instagram post this morning about it being the first day of summer, and I used the Canada 150 because I was talking about Canadian ranches and the Canadian summer. And so hashtags like that I find are very important, but it's also sometimes I think we get very hung up on hashtags. It's only important if people are actively searching those hashtags.
One other thing too, when we're talking about hashtags, feel free to, like, if you're interested in trying to do a Google search that includes the product that you want to talk about, and say a dietitian or fitness or whatever it happens to be, and you should get some pretty decent results in terms of what those individuals are actually using for hashtags as well. I'd like to say thank you very much for everyone for taking part in this webinar. This is just a series that we're doing. This is the second in that series, and we hope to do another one later on. If you do have any questions later on, feel free to use the @Adrienne Ivey or @CGMonch, which is mine, and @FarmFoodCareSK. Feel free as well to give us emails or phone calls. We will answer you as best we can. So with that, I want to say thank you again for taking part in this webinar. I wish you all the best on this longest day of the year. And again, thank you very much for taking part. All the best.